Eala is about to walk into the biggest test of her Washington campaign, and Qinwen Zheng just sat down in front of the cameras to react to it. What she said next was not what anyone expected. The two-time Grand Slam finalist and reigning Olympic champion did not come out swinging with confidence. Instead, she admitted something raw. Since coming back from injury, Jheng has not managed to win 3 matches in a row. Not once. That single line changes the entire story of this matchup before a ball is even hit. Let's rewind for a second. Qinwen Zheng landed in Washington, D.C., carrying a wildcard into the tournament, and her first comments were almost disarmingly simple. She talked about the city itself, praising the nature around the venue, and calling the tournament well organized. But the moment reporters brought up her opponent, the tone shifted. She was reminded that she already has history with Eala, a match that goes back 3 years to the Asian Games. Her response was blunt. 3 years, she said, is a long time. Whatever happened back then does not matter anymore, because this is a completely different version of both players stepping onto a completely different court, and that court matters more than people realize. Jheng broke down exactly why the DC hard courts suit her game, describing the surface speed as balanced, not too fast and not too slow, which is exactly the kind of court where her serve and return game can thrive. She confirmed she has been drilling those exact areas in practice: serve, return, easy strokes, and court mobility, all in preparation for a swing that was, in her own words, not easy. But here is where the story gets emotional. When asked about the biggest challenge heading into her match with Eala, Jheng did not talk about her opponent's game style, her power, or her movement. She talked about herself. She said the real challenge is staying locked in, maintaining focus from the very first point to the very last, and being able to control herself mentally on court. That is a massive admission from a player who has already proven she can beat the best in the world. It tells you this comeback is not about talent, it is about her own head. Then the conversation turned to something bigger than this one tournament: the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. As the reigning gold medalist from the last games, you would expect Jheng to have something to say about defending that title. Instead, she shut the question down almost instantly. She said thinking about an Olympics that far away makes no sense when she is still living in 2026, still fighting to find consistency after everything her body and mind have been through. It was not dismissive. It was survival mode. A champion refusing to look past the very next match, because the very next match is still a mountain to climb. And that mountain has a name: Eala, who is walking into this tournament with an entirely different kind of momentum. Across her own press conferences in DC, Eala described match after match where she was written off early and somehow found a way back. In her opening match, she was down a set and a break before turning the entire result around, calling it a matter of patience and bravery, waiting for the right moments against one of the biggest servers on the entire women's tour. She broke that serve 6 times in a single match, an extraordinary number against a player known for overpowering opponents with aces. Eala is through to the quarterfinals in Washington, and the story behind this win is exactly why fans can't stop talking about her. Down 5-1 in the second set against defending champion Leylah Fernandez, everything looked over. And then, somehow, it wasn't. Speaking right after the match, Eala didn't shy away from how tough the conditions were. Windier than the day before, she admitted, was definitely a factor, but something she couldn't control. She gave real credit to Fernandez too, saying she put me in some really tough positions, and that she was super proud of how she fought and stayed in there. But the real turning point everyone wants to know about is that second set collapse and comeback. At 5-1 down, Eala said her level had simply dropped. One of those tricky moments where you know things aren't clicking, but you can't figure out why in real time. Her answer for how she clawed it back? Patience. Working it out point by point. Trusting a strong mentality to find solutions when nothing was coming easily. Here's a detail a lot of casual fans might miss, but tennis diehards will appreciate. After the win, Eala walked straight over to her coach Jheng. Not every player on tour does that. Some treat matches as a solo battle, no interaction, no celebration together. But Eala made a point of saying how important that relationship is to her, calling Jheng her confidant, someone she trusts completely. She didn't stop there either. She shouted out her team back home too, Yuke and Sandro, and even gave Sandro a birthday shout-out live on camera. Small moment, but it says a lot about how she credits her circle, not just herself, for these wins. Then there's the fan support, and honestly, this might be the most consistent storyline of her entire season. Washington has been no different. Massive Filipino crowds, cheering constantly, and when asked directly why the support is so strong everywhere she goes, she gave an answer that felt genuinely reflective rather than rehearsed. She said it's hard to give one concrete answer, but she's aware of the platform she holds. She called herself the first Filipina to reach this stage in tennis, and said she represents more than just her country, she represents a minority, and maybe a young girl somewhere who never saw a pathway before her. That kind of statement comes with weight, and the follow-up question went right at it. Does that support bring pressure? Her answer was honest. Yes, there's pressure. She's a competitive athlete after all. But she was quick to separate that from something deeper, the pressure she puts on herself. She described herself as extremely self-demanding, extremely ambitious, and made it clear that regardless of who's cheering for her, this journey belongs to her first. And the numbers back up just how big this fan surge actually is. Tournament owner Mark Ein revealed that from the moment Eala committed to play, roughly a month before the event, 80% of all ticket calls and emails the tournament received were people asking specifically when she was playing. When she heard that number relayed back to her, her reaction was simple. She called it incredible and said it makes her feel loved and makes playing in Washington that much more exciting. Even with all of that success and attention, there was a lighter, more human moment near the end of the interview. Asked if she's had any chance to explore the city, she admitted she hasn't seen much of it at all. Matches are demanding, training is demanding, and right now that has to come first. She said she enjoys her time on tour, but she's still working, and jokingly asked fans watching to send her suggestions for what to check out in her free time. The interview wrapped with her sending a message to the crowd in her native tongue, and the reaction from fans said everything you need to know about the connection she's built in such a short time on tour.
Oh, yes.
Eala just beat a 6-time Grand Slam champion on center court, and the way she did it is stranger than the scoreline. On July 4, 2026, Eala walked out at Wimbledon ranked world No. 29, drawn against defending champion Iga Swiatek, the No. 3 seed with 6 Grand Slam titles to her name. Nobody expected a contest. Eala's own serve barely breaks club rally speed. First serves landing around 86 miles per hour compared to Swiatek's 102. On paper, this was a mismatch. 2 hours and 14 minutes later, Eala was on her knees in tears, and Swiatek was walking off center court eliminated in the third round. The first set alone lasted 84 minutes, one of the longest and best of the entire tournament. Eala fell behind early, clawed back, and pushed all the way to a set point at 5-3 that Swiatek somehow saved. It went to a tiebreak. At 4-2 down in that tiebreak, Swiatek cracked, throwing her racket into her own bag right there on center court.
Just staying.
The defending champion visibly losing her composure in front of a full crowd. Eala saved 2 set points and closed the tiebreak 7-6. She never let go in the second set, racing through it 6-2 while Swiatek's game came apart around a string of unforced errors and double faults. 5 double faults across the whole match. Here's what actually decided it, and it didn't come from a coach or an analyst. It came from Swiatek herself in her own press conference. She said the slow second serve was mentally tougher to face than a fast one, because she knew exactly how it would arrive, and still couldn't find rhythm off it. That's the twist worth building the whole video around. The serve everyone calls Eala's weakness, the one running roughly 20 miles an hour slower than tour average, is the exact shot that dismantled a Grand Slam champion. It wasn't power that beat Swiatek, it was timing and disguise. Since her run in Miami in 2025, Eala has built one of the best second serve returns on the entire WTA Tour. And she can send it anywhere. Down the line, cross-court, inside out, inside in, off both wings. This wasn't the first time these two had met. 16 months earlier, in Miami, a far less experienced Eala beat Swiatek in straight sets, a result that barely made headlines outside tennis circles at the time. Wimbledon wasn't the surprise, it was the confirmation. And it mattered beyond the scoreboard. Eala became the first Filipina to reach the second week of a Grand Slam, and the first player from the Philippines, period, to get this deep into a major. There's no academy pipeline back home, no prior generation to point to, Just Eala, her brother, and her grandfather running drills after school years before anyone outside the Philippines knew her name. On court afterward, still catching her breath, she said the win meant something she could barely put into words. That for someone like Eala, Alexandra Eala just broke a record no one saw coming. She lost a tennis match at Wimbledon, and her ranking still climbed to a career high days later. That is not a typo. Fans online could not explain it at first. This is the real story behind how a 21-year-old from the Philippines rewrote her country's tennis history, and why losing actually helped her. To understand how strange this is, you have to go back a few weeks before Wimbledon even started. While the big names in tennis got most of the headlines, Eala was working through smaller tournaments most fans were not watching. She played event after event on grass, a surface she had barely touched before this year. That grind led to a strong run in Berlin, where she made it all the way to the semifinal before losing. That single result was enough to push her ranking into the 20s for the first time in her career. The timing mattered. Wimbledon locks in its seeding based on rankings from late June. Because her Berlin run landed right before that cutoff, she walked into Wimbledon as the 29th seed. For a player who had spent most of her career fighting to crack the top 100, that was massive. 1 year earlier, her Wimbledon had ended in the first round. This time, she came back with a title in Birmingham already in hand and one of the best grass court records on tour.